We've been refining the system for decades, but what if it's time to redesign it? Not from scratch, but from what we know works. You're listening to Education by Design. I'm your host, Phil Evans. In this episode, I sat down with Dr. John Falino, a long-term principal from Dobbs Ferry High School in New York, to explore how a shared vision, community-led change, and values-driven leadership can transform a school. What happens when a school leader steps back from programs and branding and starts with a simple question: what do we really value in education? That's exactly where John Falino began when he took the helm of Dobbs Ferry High School. John has spent more than a decade transforming the school's culture, building equity into the curriculum design, and proving that when a school commits to a shared vision, all students can have access to a meaningful, rigorous, and empowering learning experience.
When I had come on, I had actually started with a superintendent, our superintendent at the time, Dr. Lisa Brady, who was of the same mind as me. You know, we were really doing a lot of thinking and a lot of early work, not necessarily talking about the IB program, because we didn't want to come at people, and say, this program is. It was starting to become. It was receiving a reaction, right, without unpacking really what it is that we're talking about and what it is that we value, and that's great education. That's creating critical thinkers that are adaptable and solve problems and communicate well, and are really prepared to take on all of the changes that they're going to be kind of coming upon in whatever kind of global market they pursue upon graduation. So in order to unpack that, we started engaging the community. Dr. Brady particularly did this with a book talk around Tony Wagner's work, The Global Achievement Gap, and really starting to talk about those survival skills that he was talking about. And those skills that he was talking about very closely mirrored to the IB Learner Profile, to now what we are calling our approaches to learning skills, right? Those 21st century skills, which are really intuitive to all things IB, right? IB is a curriculum, it's a program, it's assessments that are based on all of those real-world types of application problem-solving skills. Show us what you know, right? So in leading the community around those discussions, it was a very natural kind of transition to, so what is the academic program that makes the best sense for us?
John's strategy is grounded in community. He brings a values-driven mindset to the staff, challenging teachers to redefine their role. John, you've told me that you ask teachers to think about what it means to teach in a school with a clear vision. What kind of shift did that create?
Right. So my background and my strength has always been in curriculum development. I was I did a lot of work with understanding by design back when that was new, and that was, Wiggins and McTighe. And so when I came into Dobbs Ferry, again, that was a very natural kind of way for me to go. So all of the early work that I did with staff was to change their thinking around who they are as teachers. And the very early question that was continually posed to them in each of their respective subject areas in 9th and 10th grade was, you are teaching, let's just say, an English 9 class. You're teaching an English 9 class in an IB World School. And our goal is for all of our students to come out as IB learners, right? We're developing IB learners here. So how does your class here in Dobbs Ferry differ as an English 9 class in an IB school from, say, the English 9 class in the school up the street in the other Rivertown that's not an IB school, right? What types of skills are you emphasizing? What types of activities are students engaging with? What does your curriculum look like? What are you reading? Why are you reading it? And the thinking right away was for all teachers to think and essentially be IB teachers. In English, we're going to be looking at that time oral commentaries. What does that look like in 9th grade, 10th grade? right? How are we scaffolding up to that? So it started to, the IB, what it's really done for our school, I can go in a million directions here, but what it's really done for our school is it's given us a singular vision and mission. So everything that we do from a professional development perspective, and it might not necessarily seem like it's IB, like when we went into our one-to-one Chromebook program. We presented at the Chicago conference in 2015 on that. And the way that was IB for all, one-to-one Chromebooks, because how Chromebooks helped students to develop all of those 21st century ATL skills that we talk about, and how they were also used as a vehicle for equity and access for all students, because we gave every kid a device, right? So all of the work that we do, and when we're rolling out, technology in those years to our staff, we're always putting it under the umbrella of our IB vision and mission, and all students and teachers being a part of that. So what started to happen, in those early years is there was a lot of momentum, excitement. It was really a wonderful time in our district. It was, there was just a lot of positive energy.
So it sounds like, as a result, every teacher, not just the designated ones that were teaching in the IB program, but they all became designers,
Sure.
Collaborators
Sure.
in, the development of this rigorous and relevant learning experience for every single student in a public high school.
Sure.
So for you guys, equity is not just an aspiration; it's all about the design.
Mm-hmm.
You've restructured course pathways. You've looked at scheduling. You've looked at staffing, so that access became the default, not just the exception.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You've said that systems, not slogans, determine whether students thrive.
Right.
What's one of the first things that you did to make the system more inclusive?
Right. So some of the things that you would need in order to implement a high-quality curriculum and IB program within your school, in thinking about that, well, first off, as I said before, it's leading with a singular guiding vision and mission. I can't emphasize that enough. Too often in education, often in education, you'll hear it's teachers and staff, school leaders, a new initiative comes on and they feel like it's another thing. Oh, so we're doing DEI now. Oh, we're doing technology now, right? We're doing whatever that would be. And in having a singular vision and mission, that kind of gives everybody a charge to see how everything fits in. Okay, so we're talking about diversity and equity and inclusion as far as our curriculum goes. What does that look like? How does that connect to our vision and mission? What have we been doing up to this point? So that's first. I can't emphasize that enough. The second part, from a systems perspective, so you mentioned the word systems, and I think that's how I intuitively think. I see everything as a system. So my question in thinking about designing a system is how can we as a school design a system based on our context, based on our size, based on our resources, based on our space, our facilities. What type of system can we design within this to provide the most students with opportunities to access an IB education to the fullest and most robust way possible, right? So if I had a larger school with more resources and more space and more staff, it might look different. But what does it look like in my school? For the high school making a change, or going through authorization, I should say, and kind of bringing teachers to unit planners and kind of work, it was seamless, because we had done so much of that curriculum work using backwards design already. So bringing in global contexts and the concepts and the related concepts and all that for them, that gave them more focus. But it was also a kind of a seamless transition in that respect. And then the middle school went through that same process.
Yes, we always have to do the very best with what we've got, and that's how systems can really benefit.
Sure.
You know, from the co-taught courses to expand subject offerings, the system that you are building serves more students more meaningfully.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But rigor isn't just academic, it's emotional too. John, you emphasize passion and personal connection because when students care, they commit.
Sure.
How do you design school to support not just learning, but purpose, passion, and well-being?
At least in the United States, in particular in New York State, there's been a move away from thinking about education from more of a vocational perspective and thinking about it from an employment perspective and skills perspective, and has been a strong emphasis in the state really on academic development, college prep, preparing all students for a 4-year liberal arts education in college. That's where the Regents exams are kind of are rooted in, and there was a move away from vocation as a pathway for students at that point. That's starting to make its way back. So how can we design experiences for students that are kind of more hands-on and real world and get them out there? So we are very much guided by the thinking of thinking globally and acting locally, looking at our local community. So service learning experiences for students in grades 9 through 12, you'll find them everywhere. You'll see students going out into our local community, whether it's up to our elementary school to work on sustainability projects in the garden or the food pantry in town. There's so many places where you can see that work happening. But you know, that's become a very it's really enhanced the curriculum work that we're doing inside of the classroom. From a tangible perspective too, most of it is tied to Dobbs Ferry, making a difference in our local community with global types of issues, right? And looking around and thinking about how we can make a tangible difference. So there's so much choice that can occur within a school. And again, I'll go back. The personal project is a very tangible way, right? Where students have they're choosing something that matters to them, that's personal to them, that touches them, and then they put all of their energy into kind of unpacking that, right? Because when you have students and you provide them with opportunities to do work that actually matters to them, it stops becoming work. It just becomes what I love doing. It's my passion, and it makes me feel good.
I love that you mentioned that. That's, I think that feeling good and feeling joy in a school experience and in the learning is seriously undervalued.
Yes.
So, John, I'd like to turn now to, you've worked a lot in your school and your system, in your district. Can you talk to us a bit about how this all fits into the context of public education in a state system like the New York education system?
What is happening in the state of New York in terms of education has definitely been a shift to the application of skills and a move away from the memorization of content. So, about 10 years ago, when New York State made its push with the Common Core standards, and that was all the talk across the country, we know that one of the sets of standards that was looked at in designing those Common Core standards were the IB learning standards, right? So IB has really been ahead of the curve in thinking about education and preparing students in that way. New York State still does have a very formal testing structure at the high school level, right? So we do have Regents exams in all of the subject areas, all of the core subject areas. And students have to take a minimum of 5 in order to graduate, and then they can move up from there. But the tests have changed. New York State continues to go through a series of revisions around their Regents exams so that those exams now look much different from the way they did when I took them.
True, I can imagine. Hopefully things have changed a lot since we were in school. John, who grades the Regents exams?
Great question. So teachers do that. So they have multiple graders on the exams. And then the state will send, like benchmark and exemplar papers. So they have to go through like a training process themselves before grading. Then there are rubrics. And then once the tests are graded, they're not scored by the teachers any longer. They're evaluated, but they don't know how the kids go, what the number's going to be, right? So the state moved away from, schools actually using the conversion chart and saying, okay, he got a 63. They moved away from that, and instead, now once all the grades are done, they're sent out, and the state provides the conversion charts to a central location, and then the tests are scanned, and then we receive the scores back.
So it sounds very much like the New York State system is arranged very similar to the way that leading education systems around the world set up, assessment with teachers that are trained to assess students at a state level.
Sure.
What do you think is preventing the system from evolving to a more varied assessment model like the one you've described with the IB, where students are doing projects, they're engaged in, their own research, they're maybe, writing a lab for themselves,
Sure.
Creating an art portfolio,
Sure.
Giving a presentation.
So, my thinking is, first off, when you think about something as large as New York State, if you think about just the sheer number of districts, of kids, of teachers, of everything, of schools, I think that there needs to be, from the perspective of the governing body, something that's kind of clean and aligned and measurable. The better question would be, what avenues exist for schools to opt out of that system and do something that's a bit more flexible and aligned with the core values of the respective district, and while still allowing students and schools to meet the required criteria. And those types of pathways, I think, in New York State do exist, but they're not widespread. So students, one of the questions that often comes in from parents is around, so if my kid is an full IB student in the diploma classes, are they going to have more tests? Is it double the tests? And the answer to that is no, not in a single year, because none of our students will take a Regents exam in 12th grade. They will have fulfilled all of those state requirements by that time, so that in 12th grade they just have their papers at the end of the year and that's it. In years like a grade 11, where we have our students in year 1 of IB English, they are simultaneously preparing for the New York State English Regents exam. But again, through that year 1 IB course, they're beyond prepared to be successful on that Regents exam. And as a result of that, passing Regents exams in our school is a non-issue. Very seldom do students not. So I think that the work that we do from a curriculum perspective as it relates to IB is a good reason for that.
John, you've done so much great work. Do you have any advice for other leaders of schools or school systems?
As a IB head of school, and now I've been there 13 years, and we've had a lot of change in our district in the last couple of years. New district administration, new leadership across the district. I'm kind of one of the remaining people kind of to tell this story, which is why I was a quick yes to you, because I tell the story for our staff, for all the people who came before me, for all the people who were a part of that change. So Dobbs Ferry High School is the first high school in our county, in Westchester County, that was authorized as an IB World School all the way back in 1998. So I walked into that. However, at that time, the program, it was much different. It was much more exclusive. There was a kind of an AP program that was kind of running in the background as well, with a lot of noise from community members that we should be moving toward more AP and less IB. So there was lots of that kind of tension and conversation. So at that time in that district, the IB was a little bit at a crossroad. My perspective going in there, having had background with IB and having seen the types of experiences that students were involved with, I knew that it was a good program. I think my question was, how is the program being implemented, right? What does it look like? How many pathways are there for students? How many teachers are being trained in IB? Like really, what does this look like in the school? It's one thing to just have a program, but really is it a part of the culture, and is it a part of the school, and is it a part of the full system? And at that time it wasn't. And as a result of that, there was a lot of division. There were kids who were accessing the program and doing beautifully, and there was a large population of students who weren't at all. And at that time, the thinking was you're an IB kid or you're not. So that was the major shift that we kind of went through in those early years that I had gotten there. What I would say to any leader who came to me with any type of reticence around the IB program isn't for all. The IB program is too rigorous for some. I would argue with every piece of my being that when we first hear, IB, the knee jerk, and again, it's in my opinion now like the incorrect knee jerk, but the knee jerk is, oh my God, that's so hard. And actually, it's opposite. Your knee jerk should be AP, because it is not for all, and it doesn't do any of the things I just talked about. So yeah, my advice to a new leader would be to really just understand the system of what it all looks like, right? Because now we're talking about a philosophy and a curriculum that's guiding all of the work that we do. There is no program, academically speaking, that you will find that is more inclusive and more open to all students than the IB program. In its best form, an IB program is the only program in your school. The schools that struggle the most are the schools that have more than one, an AP program. It's like warring paradigms within your school. So the big push for me would always be to do one thing and do it well, and for me it would be IB because it's the most inclusive. So in thinking about to a new leader who's not understanding or seeing that from a diploma program, just look at the design of it itself. Just the very nature of a higher level course versus a standard level course, right? You're already identifying two different ways appropriate to interest, to ability, that students can access different courses. Not to mention, those courses are spread out over 2 years. So when you compare that to an AP program, that is it's not even a full year program, because students start in September, they take an exam in May. So you're talking about a 9-month intensive, over your head drill program. I've taught AP. You're at a pace, and it's about content, and it's about that test. And I hope you have a good day that day, because it's all about that test. Whereas the IB breathes. It's multiple measures. It's spread out over time. It allows you to unpack and explore, and allows you to access the program at a standard level, at a higher level, and if you choose, in a full diploma program where you still have that choice. You want to pursue the humanities? Take your higher levels there, or reverse it. So again, the program needs to be, though, built in that way. That gets back to the system talk that we had. You can't have one pathway to a diploma, right? You have to have multiple pathways, and then you're going to see, again, that connects to everything. You're going to see more students access it, more students who are successful, but then, most importantly, more students who are happy and healthy.
Whether or not your school has an IB program or has other curriculum, the thing that John really emphasizes throughout this episode is the importance of a shared and unified vision around common language that teachers can use to improve their practice and to talk about advancement and to support students' needs. That single unifying vision that grounds us in everything that we do right across the entire school. So what is the education model that is the underpinning of everything that you do in your school?
The academic MYP and DP programs, which could be looked at as, could put pressure on kids, could also be looked as opportunities to provide students with choice, and then also with students with opportunities to pursue their passion. which could actually make them happier. And when we're happier, we perform better.
You've been listening to the Education by Design podcast. I've been your host, Phil Evans. If you like this episode, please hit subscribe or follow, and join me for my next episode. And until next time, keep on learning.